Hello, class. In an earlier lecture, I mentioned the indigenous cultures of Mesoamerica or Nahuatl did not disappear, did not end. They are, for the most part, still alive, or like culture. Culture does not live in a box. Culture actually goes to evolution, it changes. And this is definitely something that has happened to this next group of, or this next civilization that I'm going to talk about, which is the Mayans. There are millions of Mayan people today who speak Mayan, but also people who are descendants of Mayan people in the traditional territories of the Mayan people. But there's also a diaspora of Mayan people that have migrated, that were forced to move somewhere else. Including here in California, there are Mayan people that might not speak Spanish. Okay, so let's keep this in mind for all indigenous groups that we're talking about. Again, they either became something else, was a new cultural group, or they assimilated somewhat, or they found a way to adopt to the colonial culture, and then later on the independent culture of Mexico, or even adopting to culture here in the United States today. But the Mayan people are still around. They didn't all of a sudden disappear. They did not get taken by the mothership, as you see in some of these shows on TV, like Ancient Aliens. Mayan people are here. If you visit a city like San Cristobal de las Casas, the city of Guatemala, you can see for yourself that there are Mayan people speaking Mayan languages. Okay, so the Mayan people are a cultural group that it's not one individual group, or was never a confederation of people that were all the same. Actually, each city-state for the Mayan people, and a city-state is cities like Chichen Itza, like this image that you see here, Itzmal, Piedras Negras, amongst many other places like Palenque. Each one of these are city-states, and each city-state had their own culture, their own ways, their own norms. They were just connected by the Mayan language. But the Mayan language itself has a total of 31 language variations. And out of those 31 language variations, only two of those variations are no longer alive, which means that today the Mayan people speak 29 out of their 31 original variations of Mayan language. And this is what unifies the Mayan people: the language, the culture that is somewhat different between one city-state to another, but it's important to point that out. So 31 languages, two of those languages have died out, and there is still 29 languages alive today. Out of all of the Mesoamerican civilizations that we are learning in this class, the Mayan civilization is probably the most concrete, the most concrete culture that has left us a lot more evidence than anybody else of their existence. This is a people that initiated with farming, and they eventually built these majestic cities that we see today. Eventually, people end up abandoning these places for many different reasons, which we are going to talk about in a second. But they make, for sure, a huge impact The Mayan people are known as the people of the corn. These people, according to a Maya Quiche creation story called a Popol Vuh from Guatemala, the Mayan people were created by twin creators. These twin creators are known as Hunahpu, which means one blow gunner, and Ixbalanque, which means little jaguar son or jaguar deer. In this story, I am going to summarize it. It's pretty long. I think I'm gonna be making a video about this later on, about this creation story. But these twin gods, Hunahpu and Ixbalanque, they create humanity, or the Mayan people. They first make them out of clay, but they notice that these clay people break easily, so they decide to start over. And the second version of the Mayan people, they make them out of wood, but they notice that these people that they created had no soul or understanding. They were not smart, so they ended up killing them by flood. And with this flood, these wooden people become monkeys. So at the end, the animals that they had created before come to them with yellow and white corn, and out of this yellow and white corn, Hunahpu and Ixbalanque create the Mayan people. And they noticed that they were too smart, so they make sure that they took a little bit of the intelligence away. And also, when they noticed that these men were lonely, they created a woman for them. And from that, they were able to procreate in big numbers. And this is how, in a nutshell, the Mayan people came to be. This is one of the amazing creations of the Mayan, great architects, mathematicians, astronomers. So the Mayan cultural influence is huge, it's enormous. They are the people that lived and continue to live today in northern Central America. This area today is known as Guatemala, Belize, and El Salvador, as well as the southern Mexican states of Chiapas, Tabasco, Quintana Roo, Campeche, and Yucatan. All of these places have something about the Mayans left behind. And fortunately, you can come and visit them and get to experience this amazing culture. Here are some examples of Mayan cities. One of them is Chichen Itza in Yucatan. This is another one called Piedras Negras in Guatemala, and Palenque in Chiapas. Other places include Tikal. The city of Tikal was a very influential city, and also a city that was influenced by people from Teotihuacan. This city of Tikal at one point had a population of about 60,000 people. So these cities were enormous, and they required a lot of organization, a lot of structure for it to thrive and do these great things here that you can see in these pictures. Again, these people are known as the people of the corn because they were created by corn according to their creation stories. So corn was in the center of their culture. And they have a variation of this creation story that I share with you, which is called a Popol Vuh. It's important to mention that people can be traced back to the Mayan region back about 10,000 years. And corn is always at the center of this civilization. If you look at, if you ever have a chance to visit Mexico City, there is something called the Museo Nacional de Antropología, the National Museum of Anthropology. And in that museum, you can visit different areas that dedicate themselves to the many indigenous cultures of Mexico. And there's one that has an exhibit, a whole area about the Mayan. And in this place, they have Mayan artifacts. Within there, they have something called the Stela 31, which comes from Guatemala. And this stela, you can see the relationship between the people of Tikal and the people of Teotihuacan. Again, like I said before, there's a relationship between the indigenous people of Mesoamerica. According to this stela, or this written, this rock that they left behind and has written information on it, there was an influence of people from Teotihuacan in Tikal, and this relationship has to do with a marriage that took place between a person from Teotihuacan and a person from Tikal that gave birth to a new era in Tikal that had Teotihuacano influence. In this stela, you can see the presence of Quetzalcoatl, which is a Teotihuacan deity, and the image of a Mayan governor there. He's carrying a shield and a weapon. He was the governor around 400 before our current era. And that is how there is a connection between these two places. Also, you visit Chichen Itza, you're gonna notice that there is a connection between the Toltec and the Mayan as well. So there is these cultural exchanges between different people. The landscape where the Mayan lived consists of rainforest, swamps, and savannas, and some volcanic mountains. The northern climate for the Mayan people, and this is in the Yucatan Peninsula, in Chiapas, in Quintana Roo, all of these places in Guatemala, Belize, the weather is very humid. The Mayan culture can be divided into three periods: the pre-classic, the classic, and the post-classic. When you think about these time periods, think about them being pre-classic is before they get this highly developed cultures and societies. The classic is the peak of civilization, and the post-classic is the beginning of the decline of their civilization. So think about it as the beginning, the top, and then the end. This is how you divide these timelines for the Mayan people. Here's another way that you can look at this. In the pre-classic era is when the Mayan emerged out of northern Guatemala, and from there they spread to other places like Belize, Honduras, and Mexico. And most of these people live in small villages and are small farmers. The first cities that they're able to build from this place is Tikal, which is probably one of the places where civilization begins, and then Palenque in Chiapas, and Copan. Trading, like most Mesoamerican cultures, is really important. Trading happens between these city-states, and conflict also happens here, and competition between these city-states. The next period is the Classic Era, and this is the making of statues, the development of astronomy, architecture, and mathematics. This is the second part of this period. The Classic period is when it's considered the high peak of Mayan civilization. At this time, more than 80 Mayan city-states are built. Arts, culture, and religion reach their peak. And just like the Olmecs, the Mayans have an elite class of priests that rule these city-states. They are believed to have extraordinary powers of vision, to see the future, to have omens, and to have all kinds of gifts because of who they are. At this time, you can see all city-states that are developed are built with a ball game court that has to do with the creation story of the Mayan people. The next period is the post-classic era. This is at the end of the decline of the Mayan people. Things like natural disasters, war between city-states, overpopulation of overuse of resources, drought, and things like that end up creating a decline in these places. Therefore, many people end up leaving some of the older city-states, and they end up moving and building new city-states. In this case, you have city-states like Uxmal and Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world today. Trading and trading continues to happen, and roads continue to be built. And these roads, in some cases, end up connecting the Mayan people to other cultural groups in Mesoamerica. In terms of land and government, the Mayan civilization, again, consists of city-states. Each city-state has its own independent government, again, ruled by people that are priests, spiritual priests. Crimes like murder, arson, and acts against the deities were punished by death. The ball game is played as a ceremony, but you can always expect human sacrifice at the end. People who committed crimes were given a trial, and punishment were carried out immediately. Nobles serve as the jury and the judges of these things, and punishments included death, fines, and in some cases, slavery. Now, it's important also to note that in many Mesoamerican cultures, there's a cultural practice of voluntarism, or you will, like community service that people do, where they are obligated to do community service. And this is one of the ways that many of these places are built, because people have to give service to their communities. And this is one thing that keeps these societies together, woven into these very effective societies. Into this very day, there's people that I know personally that do their service they have to travel to places like Oaxaca and other places in Mexico, where they have to go and do their voluntary, obligatory community service, if you will. So slavery is not always slavery. Sometimes it's a false interpretation of people doing service for their community, because this is also part of their responsibilities. Now, slavery does exist. Okay. The Mayan economy does not have any specific currency to trade or to carry business. Each city-state is independent from each other and have their own way of trading. In some cases, feathers and cacao or chocolate beans are used as currency. The prices of items change depending on what city state they're at, and how powerful those people in those city states are. Because if they're very powerful in a city state, sometimes they bring only the best to those places to sell because they're wealthy, and it would be probably more expensive to buy there. I mentioned some of the other points here. Items of prestige in this society included things like obsidian, which is something that comes all the way from the Olmec period. Gold, jade is also something that was traded at the time of the Olmecs, and many ritual items, plants, things for rituals, and different cultural aspects of these societies. Other things that were also sold and traded included clothes. Cotton was something that existed, food, and tools. The social organization of the Mayan people was an organization just like the Olmec and other cultural groups of Mesoamerica, a society that was classist, meaning that they had the elite, and then they had people that were the regular people who lived usually just like the Olmecs and other groups outside of these big city states. So you could say that the Mayan society was divided between the rulers or kings, nobles, serfs, commoners, and slaves. The person that had the highest position, or the ruler, was known as the halak uinik. There would be only one of these. They would have to be from a noble lineage. And then after that, you need a support system, and this support system was a support system of nobles who serve as governors, officials, tribute collectors, military officials, high priests. So pretty much people that were at the very top of this society. After that, you have the commoners. This is people that work in farms, artisans, servants, and so on and so forth. And then serfs, and then at the very bottom you have slaves. In terms of gender, government positions were given mostly to males, but women also played an important role in court. They also, because they came from a very strong lineage, could also influence people in very high levels. Many women served also as high priest, since they were young, and also because they were part of the noble class. Traditionally, Mayan women took care of the home, and they participated very little in hunting. They did participate somewhat in agriculture, and in war, it was something that was done by men. The Mayan religion involved a mixture of a relevance and connection to nature, astronomy, and the underworld. Most of the deities of the Mayan people are connected to these three places. Again, just like the Olmecs, they have different levels of connection. Here you have some examples. You have the sun deity, Kini Ahos, and then you have the corn deity, Hum Ax. The Mayans built many pyramids and temples for religious reasons, but they also use them for astronomical investigations, for cultural learning, among many other things. In total, the Mayan people had 165 deities, and in the Mayan culture, religion and government went hand in hand. In terms of writing, the Mayan people or the Mayan civilization left a lot of evidence of their knowledge through glyphs. And these glyphs serve as symbols that have in the center the main idea, and then from the center to the outside, they build complete ideas to tell a story. This is in all of the Mayan, in all of the Mesoamerican civilizations, the Mayan writing system is one of the ones that has been studied the most. And this language of the Mayan, according to anthropologists, can be compared to modern Japanese, the way that it's written. You can see a lot of this writing today in what is left behind in these many Mayan archaeological sites. Unfortunately, the Spanish burned a lot of the writings that were left behind by the Mayan people. The Mayan were good at using math and developing different types of technology. They develop or they continue to use the Olmec calendar or calendars to calendars the measured time and design their work, artistic work with different types of materials. The Mayans were able to perfect the 365 day calendar, which is the most accurate calendar ever made. This is the first civilization to grow cacao or chocolate beans. They were great astronomers and mathematicians. They expanded the use of herbal medicine, which was started by the Olmecs. And eventually, as we go forward, other civilizations also use medicine. The Aztecs are really good at writing about this knowledge of herbs, herbal medicine, and plants. They play the ball game. Just like most other indigenous peoples played throughout Mesoamerica. They also use rubber. And this place, Chichen Itza, the picture that you see here, this is the largest, I think, ball game space in the Mesoamerican world. This is located at Chichen Itza, which is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. That's it for the Mayan. I will go into the next lecture, which is going to be the Teotihuacanos. Take care. Talk to you soon.